mysterious phenomena on Earth, from bizarre animal deaths.
She began to uncover connections between UFOs and animal mutilations.
To crop formations.
Linda brought the idea of crop circles into real science.
Otherworldly entities.
Linda is one of the ultimate authorities on extraterrestrials.
And alien abductions.
Linda realized that abductions also happened thousands of years ago.
Could the groundbreaking work of Linda Moulton Howe provide the ultimate evidence of an extraterrestrial presence on Earth?
If there is any bottom line to this life of mine, always go after the truth. The firm truth is we are not alone in this universe.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Los Angeles, California, February 10th, 2024. Acclaimed investigative journalist, author, and filmmaker Linda Moulton Howe speaks before a packed room at the annual Conscious Life Expo.
I'm one of the few voices that kept trying to understand about something that is difficult and complex.
Since the late 1970s, Linda has been covering stories that fall under the category of what she calls high strangeness, and sharing her research with the public, eager to learn more about the unexplainable phenomena that other journalists refuse to touch.
I've been to multiple UFO events with Linda, and people love her. They cheer for her. People are deeply invested with Linda Moulton Howe because Linda is a trailblazer. She puts certain things on the map that before were not really talked about.
Linda Moulton Howe took on the weird topic of cattle mutilations back at a time when it didn't have much credibility. She's taken on topics that other reporters wouldn't touch and changed the world.
Linda Moulton Howe is one of the most important figures in modern journalism because she brought the science and the evidence of high strangeness into the mainstream.
And I have interviewed at least 1,600 people in the human abduction syndrome over the last 40 years.
For the first time, everyday people could talk about things like flying saucers, alien abductions, cattle mutilations, and crop circles. What Linda Moulton Howe taught us is that people who saw strange things weren't crazy. Linda is a hugely influential and important figure in the UFO community. Arguably, though, she's not what you would call a ufologist. Linda was and is an investigative journalist. She has a credentialed past, which includes a Peabody, a couple of regional Emmys.
Linda came up through the School of Hard Knocks, where most of this business was oriented to men. Linda's work is ethical, award-winning, and her ability as a person, as a broadcaster, is second to none.
For more than 4 decades, Linda has investigated almost every aspect of high strangeness, using skills she first honed as a reporter in Los Angeles.
From 1966 to 1968, I was at Stanford University getting a master's degree in communication. And I went to work in hard news at KNBC in Los Angeles. My goal was to focus on science, medicine, and the environment. This is who I am. I've always been very left-brained. Everything I did was hard science.
Linda's career was marked by multiple awards and recognitions. But after a decade working in television news, her career would take a sharp turn. Logan County, Colorado, September 1979. Linda Moldenhauer, now Director of Special Projects at KMGH-TV, the local CBS station in Denver, conducts an off-the-record interview with Sheriff Harry Tex Graves. For years, Sheriff Graves has been investigating a series of bizarre, unexplained animal mutilations.
He laid out something like 166 Polaroids that he had taken himself as sheriff, and started going through and showing me. Here they take an ear, eye, tongue, jaw, genitals, rectum. Here the animal was alive long enough to bury its head in the dirt while these excisions were taken. Sheriff, what do you think we're dealing with here? And he said, Linda, the perpetrators of these bloodless, trackless animal mutilations are creatures from outer space. Instantly, my entire body felt like it had been hit with an electric charge. That was the turning point in my entire career. From that moment going forward, I wanted to understand how this was possible.
Shortly after her initial interview with Sheriff Graves, Linda and her crew began work on a documentary about cattle mutilations. For the next month, Linda conducted interviews with local ranchers, law enforcement officials, journalists, and independent investigators. The more she learned, the more she became convinced the phenomenon has an otherworldly origin.
In those 30 days, there was a transmutation of my very soul. Because everywhere we went, I'm now confronted with dozens and dozens of witnesses describing beams of light that had the ability to levitate an animal up to something, and when it is put down, there they have found a mutilated animal. No blood, no tracks around these animals. And I still can remember a feeling of, do I want to continue going into what is happening?
It's not an easy transition to go, as Linda did, from one moment specializing in hard news to then suddenly go to UFOs and animal mutilations. It is something that some people would regard as career suicide.
I felt like I had no choice but to try to get to what is behind what I've learned is happening worldwide.
But while she felt strongly that the topic was both compelling and important, Linda was also aware that airing this documentary was the biggest risk she'd ever taken in her career.
Or what is killing and mutilating these animals? I've traveled to Wyoming, New Mexico, and Colorado exploring this mystery. I think that the day before the broadcast was about the most worried that I'd ever been in my life. I knew that what I was reporting was absolutely true, but I was nervous, and I think I was scared. Most everyone in the western United States heard about cattle mutilations in 1975.
On May 25th, 1980, KMGH-TV Denver premieres Linda Moldenhauer's documentary, A Strange Harvest.
Now this looks kind of dry, Arnold. But if you'll recall when we first started this, that was just like if you'd taken a pair of scissors and cut out a round piece of paper, you know, like you might do, a kid might do in school.
The broadcast draws a record-breaking audience of nearly 250,000 viewers. Almost immediately, calls began pouring into the station.
It was like an explosion. The switchboard for an entire week, they were just constantly apologizing. Linda, we cannot keep up with the phone calls. And then the mail. I think in that first week that it was something like over 400 letters.
During the course of her reporting, Linda became convinced that the forces behind the cattle mutilations were not of this world. investigation would involve the mysterious dealings of the United States government. New York City, March 20th, 1983. 3 years after the success of her film A Strange Harvest, Linda Moulton Howe meets with executives at HBO to pitch a new documentary.
So now I have a whole new project. It's completely different. There's this great story of a UFO landing at Ellsworth Air Force Base in North Dakota. And I had written a script as an example of what I thought we could do. And I called it UFOs, the ET Factor. And Jean Avenator was head of documentary, and she liked the script, and I signed the contract that afternoon. And that night, Peter Gersten, the attorney for Citizens Against UFO Secrecy, called me and said, I want to talk about something to see if you could incorporate it in your script.
Peter Gersten told Linda about an intelligence officer named Richard Doty. Doty was a special agent for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico. And according to Gersten, he had classified information about a UFO encounter that he was willing to share with Linda.
In 1983, Doty met with Linda over at Kirtland Air Force Base. This was an arranged meeting. This is when Linda's doing her deep dive into the cover-up and the reality of the UFO phenomenon.
He said, my superiors have asked me to show this to you. And he simultaneously opens a drawer, pulls out a manila envelope, and he takes out, I think it was about 12 pages typed. And I still can feel the strangeness as I'm now looking at all caps briefing paper for the President of the United States of America on the subject of unidentified aerial craft. I cannot believe it. I remember it was just like that. It was talking about how our government has been investigating UFOs and ETs for decades. It's all real. I was so agitated that, my God, what is happening here? Why is he showing me such a document?
According to Linda, Doty also promised her access to material that could be used in her upcoming documentary.
Doty said, we have film that you would be able to use, and gave me names of two people who would call me about a film from a real UFO, and that they were going to allow me to put this in